Hi, everybody. This is Cleo, the most important one for the show. I was thinking about this picture, and I was like, oh, everybody always talks about how the digital nomad life, you always have to portray it in reality because people might see it and think it's so glamorous and luxurious. But the reality is, I was like washing my underwear in the sink last night so that I would have something to wear today. So, um, but actually, in fact, I don't think that a lot of people would think that this trip was luxurious or glamorous. But hopefully you're here because you're interested in overland travel and kind of traveling off the beaten path and maybe nomading while you do such things. um, I'm going to talk about how basically last year I thought it would be fun to try to drive my car from Serbia to Vietnam. So the goal was to drive from Serbia to Vietnam in my car. As you can see, it's an old 2006 Renault Megane. So I thought, well, let's just see if I can do it. Unfortunately, the car only made it to Afghanistan, not because it broke down, but because of documents. So then I continued the rest of the trip primarily by land. So I'm also going to talk about what it was like to travel with a cat by car, travel with a car, and also to do overland, overland-ish type of travel with a cat as well, not having a vehicle. Everybody was asking me, when I got this idea, everybody was like, aren't you going to be afraid to do this? Are you scared of driving alone and going through all these countries and all of this? And the thing is, basically, I've always had these like two beliefs that have developed over time. These beliefs have developed over time based on whatever adventures I've done, which is no matter what happens, there's always ends up being somebody there who helps out in some way. And everything always works out in the end, no matter what kind of like problem or issue or obstacle comes up, even if it's not how I hoped it would be. So I wasn't really afraid of it. Of course, I was nervous about my car breaking down in the middle of nowhere and not being able to do anything about it. That was one. So I had my mechanic friend on call all the time. I was like, it's making this noise. Is it okay? And he's like, I think you're fine. um, and then the other fear was kind of, well, is my business going to fail and then I end up stranded in the middle of nowhere with no money? So that was also a fear as well. But neither of those things happened. Spoiler alert. This is the route. So basically Serbia to Vietnam. The goal there was just, let me just try to make it to the other end of the continent. That's why I chose this route. As I was getting through Turkey in the car, I was, having a great time, driving along the Black Sea, camping, hanging out with people, drinking chai. And I quickly realized I wouldn't be able to go through Iran as I originally wanted to as an American, because they're not letting Americans enter the country without a special tour guide with you at all times. And also, I didn't have this handy dandy little document for the car called the Carnet de Passage, which I didn't know about. I basically went into this trip not doing a ton of research. I did a basic Google search to see what kinds of documents I might need. Words Carnet de Passage did not come up, and so I thought I was good to go. Turns out there are several countries that won't let you in unless you have this document. So I was like, okay, I don't have it for Iran. Let's see. I had to do a ton of research because Armenia-Turkey border is closed. Azerbaijan is not letting people come in by land. You can only fly. Ferries from Georgia to Turkmenistan are closed. It's difficult to get into Turkmenistan anyways. So finally it was like, literally the only option is going to be Russia, which I didn't particularly want to do based on what's happening right now, but that was the way it was. So I just went to Georgia, applied for the visa. I had to wait quite a while. There were, again, some complications with the car. But the theme of the trip was just, okay, let me just try something, take the next step, and see if I can do it. Like, okay, if my trip has to end in Georgia, I guess it has to end in Georgia, but we'll just go there and see what happens. I got to Georgia, did end up getting the Russian visa, but I did have to wait quite a while. So I did a lot of camping and hiking in the meantime. yes, Cleo goes hiking with me. We were able to do multi-day trips and camping in a tent in the middle, and she's like good to go throughout all of it, which was awesome. Um, and then I kind of figured out a rhythm that worked well for me in terms of work, where I could get an apartment in the city, work, really diligently for 3 days, get all the main stuff done for the week, and then I can go camping or drive somewhere or do something else for 3 days. And more or less that rhythm worked pretty well for me. I also this was my strategy, which, not only did my business not fail and leave me stranded, but it actually grew by 60%, the revenue. And this, thank you. This was the strategy I used to do it. So basically, I started out by just one day, I was like, let me discount one-on-one consulting sessions with me. I do copywriting and marketing consulting. So I discounted those and I put all these essential elements in, right? There was a limited time discount. I blocked off 2 days on the calendar because I had the 3 days in the city that people could book, and limited number of sessions available. And I sent out the email, got ready to go hiking that day, checked my email before I got in the car, and all of the sessions had sold out. It was like 2 hours later. So I was like, this is awesome. So I continued to do this every month, just about. I did a flash sale. So I would experiment with like different prices on the sessions. Sometimes I had to send out more emails in order to sell out all the spots. But it would be, no more than 4 to 5 emails in order to sell all the sessions. And I experimented with some other offers as well, selling some courses. Then this ended up turning into something where I created a done for you offer, like I'll do a flash sale for you because it's been working so well for me. I created a workshop that I was able to sell about how to do a flash sale for yourself. And then people who were purchasing these offers would end up upgrading into, okay, I want to work with you for 6 months, or I want to, buy something more expensive. And so it turned into a very nice little funnel situation that really required me to send anywhere from 2 to 5 emails a month, and that was it. So it's a really convenient strategy that you can use to make good money and not have to work too much. So in the meantime, this was Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, driving through the desert. I spent 4 days completely alone in the desert at one point. I just had some GPS coordinates that didn't exist when I got to them. But they sort of, they worked. I was able to go and find something interesting, someplace to camp. And it was one of the top highlights of my trip was this camping in the desert, being alone, hanging out with the camels and the wild horses. It was really, really cool. Once I got to Uzbekistan, I stayed in this guest house with this lady and we became really good friends, and she was teaching me how to cook Uzbek food, and the cat, the kids loved the cat, and we just had a great time. And in that point, I was like, okay, there's a good chance that my car is going to get stuck in Afghanistan because Pakistan requires the Carnet de Passage. And at this point, there's no more alternative route I can take. So I decided I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to, again, take that one step forward and just see what happens. Plus, I was really curious to visit Afghanistan. I really wanted to go. All my friends were begging me not to, but I was just like, I just have a feeling it's different than the media is portraying it, and I just want to see what it's like for myself, and not have to believe what everybody else is saying. So I ended up having a fantastic time. I would say it's the safest country I went to. Their country has been at peace now for 3 years, and the Taliban they have a lot of checkpoints throughout, and they're keeping track of everybody. That's how I was completely shocked that they found me camping because I was out in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night, and it was just like somehow they knew I was there. But still, they're keeping track of everything, and they were all really friendly. They would see me driving the car, and they were like, good job. They they thought it was great. Of course, I got to meet a lot of women. They do go out in public. They do get to talk, they go to the market, they go shopping. They often show their faces in public. Of course, it's difficult to see how they really don't have any rights, though. That was really hard to watch. We had some amazing times, though, like them taking me home, and they like turn on the music and start belly dancing, and we're all dancing together, and we had really good times. Despite that, I did run a couple of workshops to try to teach them some marketing skills to sell their art and stuff online, um, which, I mean, they really have a difficult situation because they need to be able to sell it internationally, but they also have sanctions on bank accounts and receiving payments and things like that as well. So really, what I would like to do now is find people who have physical shops, people who sell jewelry, who sell artwork, and who could, sell it for them, and then we could transfer the money to them. So if anybody knows of something like that, or has something like that, I know you're all nomadic, but let me know. Eventually I found out, okay, I could get the CPD, but it was going to cost 12,000 euros. And given the fact that my car was 2,000 euros, I was like, no. So yeah, I was like thinking about what to do. In the meantime, I ran into Orist, who you may have heard his talk. He happened to be in Afghanistan as well. And I have to, for the sake of time, like skip this information, but basically we had to like just go for it and try the e-visa to get into Pakistan because they had like just changed their rules and now they weren't accepting it anymore. And we were like, let's just try and see if they'll let us in the country. And so we walked through the border with like Cleo being adorable, and we got through with no problems. In the meantime, I had to get rid of most of my stuff. I whittled it down to a suitcase and a backpack. It was nice to have somebody with me going through Pakistan because he helped me carry the stuff and the cat and all of that. I ended up having to get rid of even more later, but basically for those of you who are considering traveling with a pet, a lot of people are worried that there will be too many complications with vaccines and papers and all of that. There's always a standard. You always need a passport with up-to-date vaccinations. You always need like a certified health certificate from like a government official. And by say you always need, I mean, I almost never got it. Basically because I found out that at the borders, they're way less strict than, I mean, on the land, they're way less strict than the airports. So most of the time they were just like, is that a cat? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, okay. And they just didn't know what to do, and they're like, go through. So yeah, a lot of the times I didn't even bother with getting those other documents and certificates, but if you're worried about it, you can always just look on the websites and they have the information on there, and it's really not that big of a deal. You just have to be willing to take some more time, Sometimes you want to like, it's like, oh, I want to go to a new country tomorrow, and then you're like, oh, I have to wait a week to get my, import permit. That's in Southeast Asia, they have those. So yeah, you just have to travel a lot slower with a cat. So if you're willing to do that, then it works. Yeah, East Asia was, I was pretty worried about getting rid of the car because we had never traveled without the car before, which she was fine with everything. I was amazed how chill we were. We had a motorbike, we were riding a bicycle, we were on boats, like she was fine with everything. But in East Asia, it was pretty difficult with their restrictions on buses and trains and stuff. So that's why in Laos, I decided I was going to try to walk across the country. Oh, skipping, yeah, Thailand, I rode a bicycle. At first, I was like, okay, this will be my mode of transportation. And so I got like a trailer on the back, and I got a bag that Cleo could ride in, and we cycled for 7 days. And then I was like, I'm carrying 200 kilos of stuff. Or no, like 100 kilos, including me. I can't remember what it was. It was very heavy. And it was really fun, but I decided to ditch the bike. I didn't want to do that anymore. So then in Laos, we took a boat for a couple of days. They have a nice little route to take you like maybe halfway down the country. Local people absolutely loved Cleo. At one point, I decided to try to walk across Laos, which lasted, again, 3 days. because I got rid of everything I possibly could. I was down to literally just some hiking clothes and, camping gear and the laptop, which that was the killer. And then I also had a problem with my socks, and I had blisters, and I was like, by the third day, I was walking like just like in absolute agony. And I was like, I was texting my sister about it, and I was like, what would you do? Would you give up? And she was like, yes, I wasn't born to suffer. I was like, maybe I wasn't either. So I hitchhiked. And then the rest of the way through Laos and into Thailand to get to Da Nang, I was basically having to take local minibuses and stuff because the bigger buses wouldn't take the cat. But it was kind of fun. You just walk into the village and you're like, how do I get to this village on the map? And then they're like, oh, there's a tuk-tuk that's going. And so we would like jump on the tuk-tuk and go to the next village. And then we get there. It's like, how do I get to this one? And they're like, there's a minibus. And we hop on the minibus. So you just, this kind of travel is not, it's not written in blogs and guides and things like that for you to easily just be able to follow an itinerary. But if you're willing to just ask around and be like, how do I get here? How do I do this? I need this. How do I do this? People will guide you in the right direction, even if they don't speak English. So that was really cool to see that this works. And a big lesson that I learned is stop paying so much attention to all the WhatsApp chats and asking everybody in the Facebook groups, because everybody is constantly telling you you can't do it. They're like, you can't take the bus, you won't be able to, you can't go there, you can't go there. And 99% of the time I was always able to do it. So I learned to really disregard a lot of that advice. So that's my advice. Once I got to Da Nang, I was like, okay, let's do motorbike now. So I taught myself how to ride it, practiced in a village for a little while until I felt confident. And that's how I rode the rest of the way through Vietnam. Yeah, that was the journey. So eventually I made it. It ended up taking 8 months to get to Vietnam, and then I stayed in Vietnam for 3 months, and there was about a month and a half where I was motorbiking through the country. And basically what I can just say is, as you can probably tell, I did not start this trip with a big plan. I didn't have a nice overland vehicle, like I didn't have a lot of money in savings either. I was just depending on what I made along the way and working out a strategy as I went, playing with things. And that's what stops a lot of people from doing something like this, is they don't want to go to all that trouble, which, if looking back, I would have done a little bit more planning and a little bit more research. But at the end of the day, I was able to do it, and with the old junky car, and without a lot of money in savings, just some creativity and some willingness to just try things. And it really, oh yeah, I'm writing a book. You can scan this if you want to read. It's I'm publishing like one chapter at a time on Substack, so you can hear more details about everything. I skipped through these slides as fast as I could because I realized I put practically a whole book on the slides. But really, before this, I had been living as an expat in Serbia, and I would kind of use it as a base, and fly to different cities and stuff and travel. And I would travel a lot, like every month I was going somewhere, and it wasn't really very fulfilling, and it wasn't very exciting for me. It was just kind of like, I would always feel a little bit disappointed. It's like I would get to the city and, okay, I would meet people and stuff, but it just felt like there was just something missing. I don't know if any of you feel that way sometimes as you travel to these different destinations. Some people love it. For me, I didn't love it, but I loved this. This was like, this is my thing now, like the way of like having a journey where you have an end destination. It's like I chose Vietnam so randomly, and yet I got so dedicated to it. Like, it was just like, okay, I can't quit. I'm gonna get a bicycle, I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna get a boat, and I'm gonna get there, And I would meet people and they'd be like, oh, come to Thailand with me. It's like, no, I need to go to Vietnam. This is my destination. It's my purpose. And it also, one thing that was just so cool was the slow progression of society moving eastward. I did forget the flight that I took, because basically once I got through Pakistan, I tried to do the same thing with the India border. They also have this this e-visa, stamp visa regulation, and none of the countries surrounding are issuing stamp visas. So I was like, I did it in Pakistan, let's try for India. And I get to the border and they're just like, nope, go away. And I was not able to get into India, which honestly I cried because this is really my purpose, you know? And it was just like, are you kidding me? Like, I got this far. I did so much and I can't get into the country, really? And at that point, then I also did some research and I found out Malaysia was going to be the same, Myanmar, yeah. Myanmar was going to be the same situation. So at that point, I flew from Lahore to Bangkok. So I did skip that route and flew that direction. So that was a bummer. But yeah, it is what it is. What was I saying? Oh yeah, and it was also a bummer to like kind of miss that portion of progressing through society, to just get to see what life was like slowly progressing east. Because what I had been really craving in this whole time was something different. Like, you know, Afghanistan was amazing because it was like stepping into a different world. Pakistan was like stepping into a different world. It was just absolutely magical. And all the stereotypes that people have about Muslim countries are just stereotypes. You know, I've gotten so many messages and things about people like, oh, Muslim men, they want to hurt women and abuse women. That is a lie. Like, I mean, hopefully you as nomads like know that that's not true, but a lot of people don't know that that's not true. It's absolutely like a stereotype. It's a lie. Muslim men, they like to look out for women. Those were the countries where I felt the safest. Everybody, you know, they see a woman traveling alone. They don't want to attack you. They want to help you and see if you need something and offer you a place to stay and offer you food and chai. And so I learned a lot from them about their hospitality. Americans can be very individualistic and very like closed. And so it was really cool to be able to experience such openness and such warmth and being welcomed so much. It was really an amazing, amazing experience. So my next idea is I want to do Serbia to South Africa. So I'm back in Serbia again. My goal is to get a better car this time and to get the right documents, and then to drive through like the Middle East and Africa. So that's my next destination. Currently working on some you know, sales and saving money and looking for a car and all that stuff, but that's the plan. So that's that. Thank you.